Welcome to Forge of Champions. Yes, we are here into the fourth qualifying tournament, the final qualifying tournament where the final set of points are up for grabs. This is going to be an insane one. I'm joined by Celtic Tiger and Blood Penguin, my two Irish comrades here to the left, and it's a good week for them actually. There's some spicy games coming up today that I'm sure those guys will be interested in. But first, before we jump into it, gentlemen, feeling good?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. As you said, some interesting matchups coming up, so see those shortly.
I'm on the edge of like heartbreak and absolute bliss.
Okay, he's got bigger issues for sure.
Yeah.
But go on.
I just had to bring my script up for the very important.
Scripted, what?
You see, this whole Forge of Champions is all scripted.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk about the structure of the tournament, which is why I have my script on my phone, just in case you thought I was doing something else. Getting my script up.
Just keep digging.
Yeah, I know. We're going to have a look at that now, though, so let's move in. The Forge of Champions is split into 4 individual qualifying tournaments, each with their own unique rewards. Each tournament has 2 stages, an open stage and a scoring stage. The open stage allows up to 64 teams from across the UK and Ireland to sign up and compete for a spot in the subsequent scoring stage. The top 8 teams from the tournament will qualify and are seeded based on their finishing position in the open bracket. The scoring stage takes the 8 open teams and matches them with 8 invited teams from the previous Premiership. Here the teams play from a round of 16 bracket, with the teams earning points based on their final position at the end of the tournament. The top 8 teams will also earn a chunk of our £50,000 prize pool. Points ramp up over the 4 tournaments, and the 8 teams with the most points earned at the end of the tournament stage qualify for the Grand Finals. This Grand Final bracket will determine our overall champion, as well as who takes the lion's share of that £50,000 prize pool. Teams also have an added incentive with 2 EU Master spots up for grabs. The teams with the most points at the end of the tournament, which is the end of this tournament that we're going to be doing here, will automatically qualify, with the other team getting the spot for winning the entire Forge of Champions. Oh, script done, boys, let's go. But that is the Forge of Champions. If you aren't used to it by now, hopefully that gave you some kind of info. And like I said, this is the final tournament with the last amount of points on the line. It's worth the most points, and obviously the team that comes out at the top of that table gets an automatic European Masters spot qualified. Doesn't matter how they do in the Grand Finals, they are already through to the EU Masters if they come out with the most points here. So big things for them. No sign-ups because we're done. I usually go into sign-ups, but if you just want to follow the action online through the bracket online, you can go to forgechampions.com and just check out all of the brackets, as well as past tournament results. It's got everything that you need to know from our previous tournaments, as well as how to look forward to the upcoming Grand Finals. If you want to get involved with this on social media, we do have Twitter, believe it or not. Twitter is @LVPUK, and that's the Forge of Champions website if you didn't know, forgechampions.com. Twitter is @LVPUK, so you can go follow us on Twitter there. And you can use the hashtag ForgeOfChampions4, because we are into our 4th qualifying tournament, so it is going to be a 4 at the end of that. And so, as we move on, we also have YouTube, which is where we have all of our previous videos. If you want to check out the VODs from any of our streamed matches, they will all be available on YouTube @LVPUK. So just go to YouTube, type in LVPUK on YouTube, and you will be able to see all of those videos. So we also do a point in the pre-lobby bit where we talk about a crazy question we can ask Twitter, just to try and sort of tweet us, tweet Forge of Champions, whatever. We'd like to get your answers.
We'll debate it. Maybe we won't. Maybe
well, yeah,
easy answer.
So I usually like to ask my casters on the fly, just what is the first question you can think to ask to our wonderful viewers?
Yeah, no, I was not expecting this.
I
I can guarantee that this was on the fly, because I have nothing to say on this one.
Usually this happens, and I have to come up with something.
I think a good one.
Okay.
I think a good one now.
We'll shut you down.
Yeah, you'll shoot me down. Don't worry. Yeah.
I'm testing your.
You're testing me with the hashtag ForgeOfChampions4. A good question I could think of is, who do you think has been the MVP of the scoring tournaments?
That's not a crazy question. That's a
crazy.
try-hard question.
I don't
That's
know.
a try.
You're putting pressure on me.
All right. If you were to create a team out of UK music artists, who would be on your team? I want to know who would play top, who would play jungle, who would play mid, who would play AD carry, and who would play support. And they have to be UK or Irish music artists. So there you go. I had to get that one in there. Just
I mean, I do feel like also including Irish music artists makes it like it gives you a much wider pool as well.
I can only think of Bono. I can think of the guys, the Pogues. The
Pokes.
I don't think I put them on my team.
Well, actually, can I narrow it down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even a little bit. It's like it's same with
Just
music
Irish
artists.
now.
Yeah.
Go UK.
Yeah. Screw England, right? No. Like maybe even like what 5-person band or boy band would you have?
That's specific.
Boy
Okay.
bands die.
We
Boy
can-
bands die.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
At the as I am the head of this desk, I'm going to rule it that you can include boy bands if you want, and that can just fill all your positions. So there you go.
Yeah.
Forge Champions 4, I want to know which music artists would make up your League of Legends team and why they would win the entire competition. Forge Champions 4 at LVP UK on Twitter. Also, please tag all of us so we can read it and potentially read it out on air, because that would be funny. Excoundrel, Celtic Tiger LOL, and BP Casts, I believe. So there we go. I knew them all off my head. Right. We actually have some. I'm not going to tell you yet, guys, but I am going to make you aware that we have had winners of the pool party competition that we were talking about last week. I'm not going to announce them just yet. You will find out who won the pool party competition in between the series, in between our EXCEL and MNM game and our Wind and Rain and Nuclear Storm, which I didn't just read off the back of the screen there. So if you want to know who won the pool party skins that we were giving away last week, that will be in between the two series. Right, so let's move on, because we have a bracket to show you guys, also the points table. So let's have a look at the points, as I think we've got them now, as they are now, because obviously this is the only time we can show this is actually the bracket. So this is the bracket as it stands now. You can see those quarterfinals yesterday, gentlemen. Anything that stands out to you? Obviously not Nuclear Storm Gaming, but
The big thing for me is the battle for 8th place, if you like, if you want to call it that. Barrage and Nuclear Storm Gaming both vying for that last spot in terms of points to qualify for the grand playoffs, and that's the big thing there. But also, we're actually seeing EXCEL versus MNM, which is going to be, our first series of the day. But it's also a very interesting matchup because MNM have kind of been a bogey team for EXCEL as well.
yes, absolutely.
I think the big thing for me, though, is that you have previously, okay, it was MNM beat them in the first tournament, then EXCEL have looked strong since. But now you have EXCEL, who really struggled in their last series.
Yeah.
Can they get back on form in time for this one?
Well, we'll talk about it as we go into that matchup, because obviously there's some interesting things. Now we're going to see the scoreboard. I just didn't get it quite right way round. And you can see Enclave, with their win in Tournament 3, have put themselves just 300 points ahead of EXCEL. There is very much a possibility that Diabolus, EXCEL, and Enclave, I think, could claim that first spot. I think Diabolus would need some results to go their way and to take the entire win here. But EXCEL and Enclave are obviously fighting out for that top spot for the EU Masters. Overall, though, a lot of shifting can take place this week. So we will not show you this scoreboard until the tournament is over next Thursday, because there is too many results to talk about and we don't want to get anybody's hopes up or change standings and incorrectly say things. And speaking of matches, the first one's coming your way. It's going to be EXCEL versus MNM Gaming. Like you said, it is a very classic, you could call it El Clasico, El Clasico matchup. EXCEL versus MNM today, starting off. Then we're going to be following that with Wind and Rain and Nuclear Storm. Tomorrow we have Enclave and Barrage, and then we have our remaining games after that. So
yeah, I mean, I was actually told by LVP UK that you've been talking a lot about brackets, so I was asked really politely to shove this in your face. So I'm going to make this nice and slow. So at LVP UK, this should help him out, because he's been struggling with this all week. So many puns as well. They're awful. Just have checked them out on both Twitters. LVP UK has to deal with them. He's been tweeting them out. It's awful.
It's amazing.
that was better than the bracket that we messed up, though.
Yeah.
So.
He cannot be stopped.
Right, I'm going to move on. We actually have a survey for you guys to go and fill out as well before we move into that first matchup. There is a survey that you need to go and fill out. If you're watching the broadcast, if you want to talk about anything that you don't like, that you do like, go to LVP UK on Twitter. They have tweeted out a link to the survey. It takes less than 3 minutes to fill out. I did it myself. There's lots of there's lots and lots of it's in the Twitch chat as well, by the way. I've just been told by producers. There's lots of feedback about the casters there. You thought that the teams had it rough, fighting out in Forge of Champions. It's basically going to turn into Caster Royale. If you don't say that you love me, I will personally mail you an angry letter that I'm upset. And by the way, this actually does genuinely decide the survival of no, it doesn't really.
No. We get our potatoes taken away from us if we don't do well enough, It's a quota. There's a quota we have to hit.
I didn't know you were getting paid in potatoes.
What? You're not?
Sorry,
what is this?
Sorry about that, guys.
Your weird money.
Yeah. How dare you use legal tender in front of us?
You can only say that because you're Irish. I can't say
you bring that up and then we'll just get super offended.
I could never say that on broadcast, guys. Right, let's move on. Now, I think I've done the housework now. There was a lot of housework to do before we got there. So let's move on to the actual first matchup here. It's going to be EXCEL versus MNM. And I'm going to start with you, Celtic, because EXCEL had a rough game yesterday. Coming into this quarterfinal.
That's a way to put it. I think, okay, so we'll talk game 1, they were fine. Game 2 was very rough. Game 3, you think, okay, maybe they turned it. No, I mean, that was right to the end, and then they were saved by a Fiora split push. That's not how, as a top UK team, you want to be facing off against some of the open teams.
I mean, so look, Twitter randoms are probably one of the better open teams. Sure. They are made up of some very good players, but they're like a solo queue warrior squad kind of put together. They had people like EU Twisted Fate and stuff like that playing. So obviously great players on that roster, but you know, EXCEL are supposed to be one of the best teams in the league. That was a rough game. I mean, they were in good spirits afterwards, as you would have to be, I think. You saw a lot of jovial tweets on Twitter. Venza was saying, "Oh, that was a tough one. I'm glad we made it through," you know, that kind of thing. But they're coming into MNM now, who has been their kryptonite, but also EXCEL has dispatched them very quickly as well. So it's a bit of a swing matchup with these two, depending who's on their game. And
not only that, MNM have said as well that like they're feeling very good right now. They're feeling that the scrims are going well. They're playing well as a unit. They're bringing to the table what they've always wanted to kind of at the start. So EXCEL, you know, after the Twitter randoms games, you kind of have to laugh, because if you don't, you cry. And it's a bit of a thing of like, yeah, it's fine, lol, 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 please don't do that again. Because I think MNM will punish them a lot harder.
Yeah, well, obviously, MNM are an incredible team. Although, speaking of MNM, they obviously likely guaranteed top 8 position for themselves now. They will make it to our grand finals. Not in contention, you would say, for that first point running against for the EU Masters spot. But it is a team that has been very middle of the pack, which is probably not where MNM as an organisation are used to being, given their performances across the last few years in the UK scene. What do we think MNM needs to do to challenge EXCEL here? I mean, because EXCEL have shown weaknesses in every lane at some point in their game, but overall are probably one of the strongest teams in the composition.
I'd honestly be looking at the jungle early, because we're looking at a very early to mid-game focused meta, and naturally a lot of that will move through the jungle, and you're looking at Hades, someone who's quite good at playing aggressive, a big Nidalee player himself, against Taxer, who was previously an aggro player but has now gone back towards picking much more tanks. That ideally should be a matchup you're able to punish. If you can get some lane priority, I would love to see them start pushing that forward, get themselves a solid early game, really throw EXCEL off from the get-go, and then see if you can carry that momentum.
Yeah, because when we've seen EXCEL play in the past, one saving grace for them, well, they've got 2 saving graces. Venza on a late game AD carry, and Sendu on a split pusher. Those have been saving graces for them.
Yeah, and the big thing that kind of worries me about EXCEL, and mainly comes from their final, or last final from Forge Champions 3, was Venza was still doing crazy amounts of damage. We saw the damage graphs after games. He was still doing massive amounts of damage, but no one else was going with him. It was kind of like, I'm still doing crazy damage, but no one else is helping me, so I'm just not able to do anything. I'm irrelevant. So EXCEL really do need to kind of fix that problem and make sure that damage isn't just kind of a stat. It actually means something towards the series.
But yeah, I think on top of that, you could see that, as you were talking about, the 2 win conditions are both relatively late in the game. You don't get a split pusher really solo winning games until death timers start to shoot up. You don't see AD carries really taking over fights until the late game, so that's got to be a little bit of a worry point. You've got to hope you've adapted a little bit better to the meta, especially after having a bit of a rough series.
Something that we talked about with the Enclave EXCEL series last week is EXCEL dominated the first 2 games until they threw. Yeah. EXCEL's late game decision making has been in tatters recently, and that is something that I think is going to haunt them throughout this competition if they don't shore it up. What do you think? I mean, BP, have you got a point in that before you?
I was just going to say, like, especially just to kind of confound with more kind of stuff towards yours, is that the fact that the meta is shifting back towards ADCs, we're kind of seeing less and less mages. It's even more important that those late game decision makings are on point and you're not just throwing away team fights for the sake of them.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and something that we saw twice in the EXCEL Enclave series is in the first 2 games either a Baron throw or a late game team fight decision making gone wrong, basically. So obviously I think they're going to need mentally to prepare for this matchup, because if they lose that first game, it might be rough sailing. They're the king of reverse sweeps, but not in best of 3s. Best of 5s is kind of where EXCEL have shone, and it looked like they were potentially on the road to do that, and then Enclave stomped them in that 4th game of the finals, and obviously Enclave, one of our strong teams. So let's take the focus of EXCEL. We've talked about maybe a bit shaky coming into this specific matchup. MNM, I feel like a team that we have not had much screen time with. I really feel like we haven't seen too much of MNM. They've never really made it to the semis in any of the Forge of Champions tournaments. What do you think is going wrong for them overall that they're not making it further?
Like, they seem to be doing fine, and that's
the biggest
Yeah,
issue.
yeah, it's
like
nothing excelling.
you know, they'll definitely make it to quarterfinals. They'll have no trouble against any of the open teams they've come up against. And then after that, it'll be, you know, once they're up against tougher competition, you see them against the likes of EXCEL, aside from the first tournament. And they just seem to fall down, even in terms of solo play. And that's got to worry you when it's not just your team play that's having you fall here.
Do you think it's just that there is a lack of individual stars on MNM? Like, they've got a solid team of good players, but you don't have the likes of a Rifty, or you don't have the likes of a Venza? Is it just that when someone needs to step up from MNM, they don't?
Yeah, that would be my major worry looking at them. Like, you've seen Jokerism has gone off in AD carries, and they have had some good team fights, but as a whole, I think that's it. There's a lot of qualifying statements I have to throw before I can really say it's been good.
I think we'll get a good test of MNM in this first game going into the series, but let's get going, ladies and gentlemen, because picks and bans are on our screen.
Going to be very interesting to see how these guys come along with this, but I'm curious to see how the bans work out as well, because red side priority, you know, to get the counter pick top has kind of been the story of the tournament. So I'm curious to see if MNM do kind of, you know, prioritize that as heavily as we've seen other teams.
Interesting, because Igloo I've never really thought of as like a Rifty type player that would want that kind of last counter pick, but to be honest, it is just the lane that you would do that in. Even in mid, matchups don't mean as much at the moment for some reason. I think the shorter lane, a lot of jungle presence
you can
around
wave clear.
Yeah, wave clear basically is kind of the name of the game for mid, because you roam so much as a mid laner at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that top lane matchup gives you a bit more depth in the strategy. Akali is enabled, by the way, right now.
I mean,
Really?
just removed, but yeah.
I actually was taken by surprise. I didn't know if she was or not, but it looks like she is. And I have had mixed reviews about Akali, by the way. When she first came out, her win rate was the lowest it's ever been for any newly reworked champion. About 2 days later, my Diamond 2 mate who was playing, he goes, yeah, she's actually broken.
Yeah, I've heard her builds are really strange.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people talk about it. You've seen the likes of Wicked and stuff has taken on this more AP Bruiser style. You've seen a lot of other people lean towards an AD Bruiser like TF Blade. So there's definitely still a lot of contention on what's actually good in her. And the fact if all of those people can play it and still think she's decent, she's probably very good when people figure out the optimal.
She's very good in, what I heard is super dominant in anti-melee matchups. Like, she will crush melee matchups, especially in the laning phase. It looks like the bans come through here, BP, so...
Yeah, we're going to actually see the Aatrox ban on the red side, pretty standard at this stage. Is level 1, 2 is super, super strong, and then the Sejuani as well. So they're kind of taking away Taxer's kind of safe junglers, like you mentioned in the pre-game. He's on those kind of big, tanky guys who look for the engages.
Like Gragas, potentially.
Yes, like Gragas.
Not even potentially, I guess. He's locked. Could very well be there.
What I'm saying is that they can still flex this. They can put this on Sendo, which is why Gragas is a great early pickup.
And actually, we've seen Sendu play more Gragas than Taxa.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, we might see a Trundle come out as well, but actually the Graves is something that's coming back into fruition. That's going to be locked in for MNM on the red side. So
and that's perfect. When you're a Nidalee main and your Nidalee's banned, Graves is almost like your next go-to. It farms quickly, it can invade, it can be aggressive, it can still, if it can't be aggressive, just farm up this massive storm and come out really strong later on.
And the Varus taken away from Venza. He will not have that crazy poke champion.
Varus is really strong right now. It's a Jokerism special. Like Lucian and Varus, they're kind of what Jokerism is really good at. So they're going to get that very early on here. Plus, Varus meshes with pretty much any support in the game in laning phase, and so it means that you don't have to prioritize the support with your AD carry.
And the handy thing about Varus, especially now that lethality Varus is starting to come back into meta, is you can change the kind of build you go for based on the team cup you're playing into. Like, for example, you just saw Tam Kench locked in. This could well mean he now goes for a more attack speed based build as opposed to that lethality one. So a few options available to him.
Yeah, Tam Kench does also kind of give a lot of options to EXCEL. They locked that one in. And Aurelion Sol, we talked about roaming mid laners. Not going to be locked in. It's actually going to be the Jhin, unfortunately.
Yeah, we always make the mistake of talking.
We always do it.
It's always like, never talk about hovers, always talk about hovers. Jhin is something that Venza has been playing, and with the AD carry changes that happened last week, Jhin is broken, like absolutely broken, because he just hits the fast Jhin. He's like Sonic in League of Legends. He just hits his item spikes way quicker. Movement speed goes through the roof. Jhin is in a very good place in the meta right now.
And Halo Blades is hilarious.
Yes.
I mean, he just runs people down so early on as well. Especially, you've seen a lot of people go the boots rush just to really control that lane early on. And I want to look at that last lock-in though, because that's interesting. Honestly, the most common support to pick into Zoe is Tam Kench, so it's really interesting that you pick Zoe knowing that's a thing.
Yeah.
But it does mean that your catch potential with the Varus now becomes stronger because you have more options.
They do lock in the Zoe, but I also want to point out they have banned away the Yasuo, which is kind of like that counter matchup we've always seen.
Doesn't make any sense to me because Venza plays Yasuo. Venza was the EXCEL player that played Yasuo. Rippy never played it for EXCEL. I mean, he might have played it at some point, but Venza classically has always played the Yasuo. The only thing that, if I'm thinking about this from MNM's perspective, because it's all very well me saying, oh, Venza plays Yasuo, but if I look at it from MNM's perspective, that maybe they've done some research to say that Rippy has picked up Yasuo.
I do believe Rippy has played a little bit of Yasuo, but the whole thing is he's never needed to in the team.
Sure.
But specifically, this matchup is so nice for him. Might as well just take that off the board.
And something that Rippy does play, and we have seen him play, is the Vladimir, and he is very, very good on that. And that is taken away from MNM as we wait for the final ban.
That's his standout pick.
Yeah, that's his standout pick.
It's also good into Zoe because as soon as the Sleepy Trollwolf is about to put you to sleep, you can pool.
Yeah.
And you get out of it in time before the actual true damage proc is allowed.
Last ban is going to be the Poppy, though.
That is something that me and Celtic were talking about before. He was like, he just said to me, people are just sleeping on Poppy, like she's broken.
It's hilarious. And it's also one of the safest blind picks top right now, in my opinion, because you don't really lose any lanes. You win a lot. You go even in most. And very hard to actually just lose that outright. And now, I'm glad they locked this in so they can still keep that counter pick top.
Yeah. Braum is a good lock for Jhin in any scenario. I mean, it just absorbs shots from his ultimate, and I think that's obviously really, really important.
And you're looking at, you know, probably an attack speed Varus. I'd expect an attack speed Varus. You then proc that so quickly on top of even Tam Kench. At a certain point, you just have so much percentage HP coming out from Varus that the Tam will start to go down.
Sure.
And Syndra locked in, creeping back into the meta. Syndra slowly but surely hasn't really had many major changes, but will be sneaking back up.
They should lock in this now.
I was going to say the Gnar. We don't talk about hovers though, so let's forget
about
it.
Yeah, so I'll touch on your Syndra point just before this does get locked in. Syndra actually did just receive some buffs. She was creeping back into meta just before that. And then the buffs came through, so now our early game queues are much stronger, and we were just talking about the importance of wave clear, made it that much easier.
Told you they're locking the Gnar. The reason they locked in the Gnar is because it's one of Sendu's best champions. It has very few awful matchups in the top lane, and actually it's matchups that I don't see Igloo playing incredibly well. Like, you'd have to lock in something like a Camille, which is banned, an Irelia, you know, which doesn't see too much time in the top lane right now. You need an engaged type top laner to get onto Gnar in mini-Gnar form to punish him. And it's actually going to be going up against the Scion of Igloo here. A matchup that Gnar should win.
Yeah.
And if he builds a split push Gnar build, should dominate towards the late game if you go the Blade of the Ruin King Gnar that we sometimes see. This is Sendu territory though. Sendu loves these matchups. And I think you saw Enclave ban Sendu's Gnar second ban phase every game of the finals because it's just something he'll play on blue side, most importantly, that counters a lot of safe tank picks that you might want to fit into your composition on red side, and is hard to counter, or risky to counter, should I say.
But most of the counters here were banned away anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you have Camille, Yasuo, and Poppy taken off the board.
Yeah.
There's very little else that can cut that distance safely and still be a half-decent top laner.
Exactly, yeah.
So, Gnar, I really like that pick here for him, and on top of that, I really like the way it rounds out the comp, because if you turn into the split push Gnar, which I think I'd be preferring for them, you have this really solid 4-man that can engage and play back.
And I think what you mentioned there is the important part. You've got Gragas Cask, Scatter the Weak, Jhin Ultimate to an extent, all good disengage tools because people have to respect those abilities. So in the Gnar situation, who actually engages apart from the Varus ultimate, right? If you're MNM, who's going to punish a split push here? Because the best way to punish a split push is by having a hard engage.
Yep.
None of these guys really hard engage, and the Varus ultimate can be very risky to hit.
I think their plan with the Scion, though, is that if you go for the split push, you just send Scion back and try ult down the lane against the 4-man.
But then
it's not the best strategy in the world. It's not like Ornn, where it's much more guaranteed.
Or
but
Sejuani,
it might be the best you have,
I would have
given the way the draft rolled out.
Yeah, that would have been
Sejuani's
a nice
banned, obviously, but it's just that if you bring Scion to this lane, you then have to... Well, Taxa can disengage with his barrel. Scatter the Weak can disengage. You can always keep someone safe with Tam Kench. It's not a good way of punishing a split push from MNM's side of things. If Sendu gets ahead here, he could actually single-handedly put EXCEL in a winning position because EXCEL can just sit there and clear waves with Syndra and Gragas and everybody in the mid lane very happily and not even have to worry about what MNM can do because there's really very little ways that MNM can punish. What MNM likely will want to do is Zoe Roam, Snowball, make it so that they have really good single pick potential, get numbers advantage, win off first Baron. You know, something like that. They want to get a mid-game advantage and win off first Baron. Whereas if EXCEL, like, Siege, it's there. Split push, it's there. Straight team fight potential, it's there. EXCEL have the rounded composition with multiple win conditions here. MNM, I think, are a bit on of a timer.
I'll agree. Well,
you know what? He's so shocked. He's so shocked. He's just like, they're on a timer.
I sneezed.
Yeah, my point is that I think MNM, as you said, are on that timer, but if they can execute, I always favor more proactive play, because I think otherwise you're allowing the team an opportunity to win. So if they can get that Zoe rolling, as you said, if the team's forced to engage on them, that gives them much greater strength in their team fight, because it allows you to counter-engage really effectively.
The only thing that I would worry about on EXCEL side of things is if the Scion does get ahead somehow in that matchup, or goes even enough to get to the late game with a really solid tanky build, there's not that much in terms of tank shred from EXCEL. Jhin is a slow, large burst-based AD carry, of which tanks will eat up on the front line. Obviously, you can shred through tanks okay, but it's not like it's going to be a Caitlyn just like chipping away consistently. He reload times, and Jhin just is better at bursting out those squishier carries, you know, like an AD mage almost.
And that's something that we kind of touched on as well in the pre-game, is the biggest kind of red flag for EXCEL has been their mid/late game shot calling. It's been like how they deal with that. It's like, yes, they have a very, very winnable game in terms of if they follow these win conditions, they will pretty much have all the pieces in the right order to do what they need to do. However, it's whether or not they can actually execute it. If we all of a sudden see the split push Gnar being shoved back into team fights, I feel like it's going to be MNM's kind of pace to kind of dictate, and that's something that EXCEL need to be very wary of.
And what I'd like to bring up is when I was talking like pre-draft, we were saying that what's MNM's biggest win condition? Try play for the early game. This comp does that, in fairness to them. They have drafted something that, given a good early game, they can absolutely snowball with. It's whether they can execute on that. We're saying, yes, it's limited in scope, but it does very much have that win condition.
Graves also scales up okay as well, so you will have that potentially with Varus and Graves, that your mid-late game team fights can go in your favor. The only problem is that you really rely on the Scion pretty much solely to dictate how you want to engage, and then you rely on the Scion pretty much solely to absorb damage for you, because no one else really absorbs damage very well, apart from Braum.
A little bit of Braum, yeah.
And if Braum's got his Unbreakable up, great, obviously absorbing damage.
But if he doesn't, he's screwed.
If he doesn't, if he doesn't, he's going to take a whole chunk of damage.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Graves versus Gragas matchup's an interesting one. I'm sure you'll talk about it in game a little bit, but Graves can pressure Gragas, you know, and Gragas is slower clear compared to Graves. Graves can hyper farm him. Graves can come into the mid game with a bigger spike. So obviously, EXCEL will be sitting back with less threats, less team fight presence in the mid game than MNM, and obviously need to be very careful about how they play that laning phase. That's obviously, I think, the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I mean, I was literally just going to focus on the jungle there, as you said it, because yes, Graves can do all that, but his ganking is just inherently worse.
Yeah.
So I'm looking towards this Gragas. Can you force engage this? A lot of the reason Gragas jungle started getting picked up, you can guarantee an engage that no one can respond to with that E-flash combo.
Well, you can see there, the in-game has got the pool party ongoing, and I'm going to hand it over to you two gentlemen, although actually I'm going to stay for just the first little bit, because
you can stick around for a little bit.
I'll casually throw in like small jokes, maybe.
If I'm bothered.
I like the little Halo Blades
It is EXCEL versus MNM, though, by the way, just in case you weren't aware. If you just joined the stream now, EXCEL versus MNM, first quarterfinal of Forge of Champions 4, and already Rippy.
Where are you going?
Yeah, Rippy's going to have to burn his flash here, I feel. Yep, there it is. That's predictive play-by-play right there.
It's almost like he was kind of going, quick set, take W, pick
quick set's just like, I took you.
It's awkward because EXCEL in the Enclave game that they lost in the 4th of the series in the finals, they hard-inted the early game because they invaded the Red Sun jungle with some poor early game decision-making as well. Ooh. And Rippy's already taken damage. He's already going to start to get harassed out in lane by Zoe. That's not a good start for Rippy. And actually, when we were getting some notes from some of our fellow casters, one of the questions marks raised by all of us was, is Rippy the weak link for EXCEL right now? Is he the one that is kind of needing to be babysat?
Yeah, especially considering you're coming up against Rao, who has replaced Shockwave as of the last tournament. You would hope that you'd be having this good showing into someone who's only just trying to synergize with the team, but I'm honestly not sure. I think it could be Rao has the edge here.
Raul's really good at aggressive mid laners, by the way. He was kind of known for his LeBlanc as well, and we saw him in, I think he was in EU Masters, and we saw him play as well. I believe he was anyway. I'm just hovering over Celtic's face. I think I'm
trying to remember it.
I think I remember having the discussion about how to pronounce his name. But yeah, he was super known for his aggressive mid laners, and so Rippy...
No, he wasn't EU Masters. He was in Premiership last season.
Yes,
okay. that's what he was.
Yeah,
I always get confused.
I'm pretty sure he was on Hyperion.
It's the same level of play, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Highest.
It's actually not the first time I've done this. I was also having a discussion in the first week I was here. Like, I'm sure this guy was in EU Masters, and then afterwards, I think it was Dan said to me, he was in Premiership, dude. And I was like, oh, it's the same thing.
And something I just wanted to quickly bring up to our attention, just before you leave us, Scoundrel, is comment on Varus. What kind of a style of play are we expecting now, considering that is the new mastery we're seeing a lot of the time as Ignite goes down onto Rippy in that mid lane?
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is the lethality Varus. I thought, given the comps, he might lean towards this attack speed style, but lethality could work here, especially considering you're following up with the Zoe, and we were talking about they might be leaning towards an early to mid-game focus. It does a lot better in the early to mid-game. It doesn't need as many items to ramp up.
Yeah, but also you can pressure in lane as well with your Q really easily with Comet. You've got to be super careful as the Jhin. At this stage of the game, Jhin is not particularly strong. So just constantly pressure with that Q. And that's a Jokerism style of play, by the way. He's very much a caster AD carry style of play as well.
I was going to say, the Jhin isn't very strong, but we have actually seen the Tahm Kench like 1v2ing people,
Yeah.
so the Tahm Kench is strong. So they kind of, shore up a couple of weaknesses every now and again. But
one of the things I do like is that he's leaning towards this unsealed spellbook as well. I love when you get the really strange TP plays coming out of that, because people don't expect the support to be able to TP in.
Or the barrier randomly, and it's just like,
yeah.
I went all in on this.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my god.
Or even when your heal is down, you can quickly swap to that for the next back, so you still have a heal in lane. There's a few uses of it that have been really interesting as the game goes forward. We'll see how they play out.
We'll have to wait and see, but pretty standard play. And actually, MNM coming out with a tiny little amount of a gold lead as such. In this early game. It's about 200 or 300, actually not even. As soon as the waves get pushed out, it gets nullified again. So EXCEL playing standard, playing safe. Dans are taking about half his HP though, needs to be careful with those. But again, EXCEL, this is kind of what to do. And just to kind of go back to your Rippy point, as Ox or a couple of people asking, is Rippy the kind of weak link in EXCEL? This is nothing new for them as such, because previous iterations of EXCEL have had that kind of mid lane kind of not so looking so good with Cromel. And it's kind of fallen back into that style. Do you think that's just kind of habit, or it's just pure coincidence?
I just think it's pure coincidence. Rippy was brought in to expand the champion pool of the mid laner for EXCEL. He was brought in to be a bit more versatile than Cromel was, because Cromel was essentially pick Talia or bust.
Or Galio.
Or Galio,
yeah,
Talia or Galio, whereas Rippy is supposed to be more versatile. And actually, Rippy has had great performances for EXCEL. I mean, let's not damp on the guy too much.
Of course.
He has had good performances, but he was and has felt like a weak link, especially in Forza Champions 3.
Yeah, I mean, to be a weak link on a team this strong isn't as bad as we're making it sound, is what I will say. But now it's Hades.
Yeah, we see a Flash Body Sound come in, does get the scat of the week, and that's first blood to Rippy, not respecting where the enemy jungle is, punished, and EXCEL find themselves in a healthy mid-game lead for that early first blood.
You're seeing him quickly flick through the patch notes. Oh, Syndra Q is buffed. That's what happened. Yeah. I was in the right position, I swear.
That was nice and spicy, though, to be fair, the way they executed that. Graves realized once he got flashed in on with the Gragas that he'd taken too much HP damage. He was looking to flash over the wall. The timing of the Syndra stun in combination with the end of the Gragas knock-up meant that he actually couldn't activate Flash even if he tried. So that was really good stuff there from the combination between Rippy and Ben.
And this is when I was talking about previously, when we were saying that Hades wants to be aggressive.
I'm going.
Say goodbye.
I'm going. See you later.
You can talk to me now.
Yeah, now we have, I was going to say, when Hades needs to be this aggressive style, he needs lane priority to follow up on that. Or he can end up in 1v2s like this. And that was silly, especially considering that he was engaging onto a mid laner with zero information about where Gragas might be.
It was zero information, but at the same time, he had wards on that bot side, so I feel like he could have had a general guess as to, like, maybe he's top side, or close enough. But
yeah, basically all his information suggested that that was the wrong move.
Yeah.
So I guess you've now I was selling him up a little bit more, but yeah, that was
I've undersold him. I'm just
like,
it's just like, oh, fresh apples. It's like, no, they're not. This is why. But like you said, early game lead. It's only about 500 gold in favor of EXCEL. So literally that first blood kind of, equaling the gold lead for EXCEL. But this is kind of, good early signs for the EXCEL lineup. We talked about early games should realistically be in favor of MNM.
Oh, okay.
It's actually Vrao having to use his own flash there just to back away, just in case he got flashed upon auto attack there by Rippy, who still has both summoners. So I like the respect, but at the same time, this is not what should be happening for MNM.
I mean, you picked Syndra into this matchup knowing that it's fairly good for in the lane, because you can outrange a lot of what Zoe wants to do. You've better wave clear to push her in. Denies a lot of that early roam that we were talking about, which is why I like the pick in the first place. And now that you've gotten to this Lost Chapter stage, you can really start pumping out damage that Zoe doesn't have a huge amount to respond with. Her biggest weakness has generally been anything that can engage onto her, and Syndra doesn't even have to cover a lot of distance to do that.
And Syndra pretty much, you know, as a lot of pros like to say, press R on the AD carry and win. And it's not exactly the hardest ultimate to hit, but nonetheless, they will be seeing exactly how EXCEL use this champion, how they kind of, you know, manipulate that mid lane, like you said.
And now here's the confirmation that it is, of course, the lethality Varus coming into the bot lane. You have the tier, and from now, it's just going to be trying to get as much lane priority as possible here for MNM, because that's what they need if they really want to execute on their early to mid game.
Level 6 has been hit by Shogun, but by no one else except for Venzer just now. Now we're starting to see a couple of level 6s, so that bot lane becoming a little bit more volatile. We have a lot of engage versus disengage. Tam Kench does kind of suffer a little bit from the lack of what I would call an impactful ultimate when it's not roaming. But we'll have to see now. Gnar ultimates the Scion into the wall. We see Scatter the Weak, as we see a cleanse actually used by Rippy as the Sleepy Bubble Trouble, or a Sleepy Bubble
Trouble?
Trouble. Is it Trouble Bubble?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Bubble Trouble. It's it's Bubble Trouble. Yes.
Some people struggle just because the words rhyme, but you know, some of us can remember word order.
You can say my name, like it's okay. I'm not ashamed.
No, it's someone on the cast just messed
like
up.
Someone
and
is screwing up, and I just want to say that it's okay to be wrong. But as I say, now cleanse down, flash still available for Rippy. We might see a little bit of engage coming in from this mid lane, just purely from Vro having that, you know, that sleepy bubble trouble.
All the way around.
Trouble bubble, damn it! I was trying
yeah.
as well. I tried my best. But combo it with the Graves to try and maybe get the flash or even a kill.
Yeah, and I think you've seen that now in the way Zoe's playing. You've gone for the Merc Treads. You just want, first of all, the move speed so you can manipulate around, try land that engage. But also, you just need to survive. Because if it's at the point where Syndra can just click on you with ult, you're going to really struggle.
Now, looking at this early game as well, apart from the first blood, what do either of these sides want to do? We talked about MNM, how they want to be getting the priority, you know, they want to be able to kind of roam with their mid laner. What about EXCEL? We haven't really touched on what they want for early game. Is it just kind of sit back and relax until you get that moment of Gnar, or what is their kind of, you know, angle at this point?
Pretty much what they're doing right now. They're making sure Taxer's nearby just in case anything's going down in the lanes they are pushing, and then is trying to get them some control. But now on the other side,
yeah, we actually see there now the bubble lands. Rippy forced to flash. We do have the collateral damage used as well. Rippy out of there. Igloo did roam down. And that's what we were just talking about, that repeat gank. That bubble is so dangerous if it lands because it's guaranteed CC. And it's almost like a taunt when it hits you because you're just looking at it kind of going, oh, I can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, it was flash for flash there. I'm not 100% if that was actually worth it. Oh no!
Taxer! Not what you want to see from the jungler. I like the idea, but it's just going to mean Rippy gets taken down from the unstoppable onslaught of Igloo, and Infernal Drake goes down. That was disastrous for EXCEL.
And I was actually going to note that I actually wasn't sure if it was worth it, because I don't think they have anything that could quickly force mid lane now without Graves' flash, but they kept Igloo there instead of going for the dragon, and were really quickly able to punish. What this did give EXCEL, though, is a lot of damage on that top tower.
A lot of chip damage, so you'd imagine that will be the focus for Sendu and Taxer, but Taxer, I'm gonna like look at this replay. It's so unfortunate as it comes up because you can tell that what he wants to do, and it's a great idea, but it's just the execution, like we talk about, isn't quite there. As a replay, not quite ready to fly, but hopefully we'll have it very soon.
We'll come back to it.
There it is.
Yeah.
But,
look, okay, so here it is. No, this is actually just after the E flash messed up, and then it was just the quick one shot. Zoe things.
Zoe things, you know, damage over distance, which was nerfed off in Italy and then came back to Zoe, because it's whatever, you know?
I mean, at least it's her whole kit is about the only saving grace that has, but okay, the counter engage.
Yeah, Chain of Crushing does land, and we're going to see the Glacial Fissure come back on top of this. Vens are in a lot of trouble, heals burned, but there is so much execute damage when you get those 3 Blighted Quivers. The Q lands, but they do end up trading off the Varus as well. As I said this
Get
now,
back here.
Tam Kench says, where are you going? He's going to try and kill off Shogun right now, has got the stun, but he's got to stand behind me to push him behind minions. The support's just juking it out, but at the end of the day, it ends up being a 1-for-1. Both 80 carries going down, both 80 carries picking up kills.
Yeah, and that was extremely close to being really bad for EXCEL, but they managed to save it, just get that last shot off as the Jin's going down, make it 80 carry for 80 carry. So not so bad, especially because they were able to push the wave in there at the end.
Yeah, able to return that favor, and see now exactly how this lane kind of turns in the bot side, because top lane we kind of expected it. Gnar does push in very well, does get a lot of kind of, you know, early kind of priority in that lane. Igloo though, going to try and push him back with the help of Hades, and they should get priority back, just to delay a little bit further.
That's all it is though, it is straight up the delay, because that was so Sion could back because he has no mana, and now it's going to be Gnar able to quickly push back up. Actually going to take his time though. No rush in that first tower, especially considering no other towers are under threat. Decided, let's reset, because I'm going to get this tower as soon as I return to lane anyway.
And you would imagine as well, normally with the first tower going down, we see the top laner rotate down to bot, the bot lane go up towards the top side just to kind of keep the pressure. But I would like to see kind of, you know, how the EXCEL kind of push towards this mid game, because there's no Dragon up right now. They want to have priority over this Rift Herald.
Well, the reason they normally do that is because bot lane pushes quicker. In this case, it's actually the top laner who's going to get it, so they could just continue to split push up there, especially considering Rift Herald is already becoming a focus.
Yeah, Rift Herald can turn into nothing or everything depending on the team and how you execute with it. And Sendu now going to push back in onto Igloo. Igloo getting his Frozen Heart, you know, there and thereabouts, you know, slowly but surely, but it'll be a long time, if ever, that he's going to be able to go up against Sendu and really kind of challenge him in this lane, if at all.
One of the reasons Sendo back there is so he can pick up the Black Cleaver, because that is such a nice spike in this very tanky matchup he's up against. And right now is using that, using the fact he knows he wins, to just pressure Sion completely off minions.
And as top laners throughout the UK and Ireland rejoice as 600 gold just back into his pocket, you can just feel him just like, yes, shower me in the solo gold of the turret. And that's a good start from the side of MNM. Now we're actually going to see, or sorry, from MNM, it's from EXCEL. Now we see actually EXCEL trying to turn around, back away from this fight. Glacial Fissure comes down, Cleanse was used, Flash still available for the Tam Kench. He has got it,
no!
but he's not got time. CC locked down by the concussive blows, and that is going to be a kill traded over for the Rift Herald, which was taken by Tax from the top side.
Yeah, I was watching that, actually seeing whether he had enough time. With the Cleanse reducing CC for the next little while, I was wondering if it would last long enough with the concussive blows, but not quite. Now it is MNM who are going to be able to push in. I like that they're at least using the prio they do have on the bot side, knowing that they've lost their top side, to try and make plays happen.
Minute 45 till Dragon. We now see first turret going down. 3 kills to MNM versus EXCEL's 2. A 1,500 gold lead in favor of EXCEL as Sendu just kind of pops over. It's so cheeky as well, like when you're popping over, it's like the Sion decimating smash. It's just kind of like, nope, and back off you go. But right now, coming up to 15 minutes in the game, mid lane kind of died down a little bit. It's kind of, you know, become this little island that we kind of expected it to be, considering Syndra can't keep the Zoe there, stop her from roaming. But that just means that both of these mid laners are just slowly building up that kind of, you know, big burst damage that they both have.
Yes, and it's also slowed down a lot because both of them built Merc Treads. So they're both somewhat tankier. It just means that one combo you can't really fully commit to because you know it won't kill them. They'll be able to return the same combo. Neither of you will die, but you'll be on low enough health that neither of you want to stay. And it's a very weird situation to be in. You're realistically both waiting for your jungler to stop by.
Yeah, and a little top tip for people who want to run the armor penetration Varus build, as we see actually Rift Herald being dropped into that mid lane, and as a 4-man rotation, I'm going to hold my point there a little bit as EXCEL just keep themselves in. That's going to be a free turret. Actually a TP coming in here to try and deny it. Igloo is going to join up with the rest of his team. They won't be able to get the turret just yet. There's the Deadly Flourish to lock down Shogun.
They are outnumbered.
They are outnumbered as of now. They need to be respectful of that engage. 30 seconds until the dragon comes up. Igloo has not got a turret, or sorry, not Igloo, excuse me. Sendu has not got a turret to take until he gets that tier 2. So right now, MNM just playing a stall game right now. They know they can just send up Igloo to the top side when it does eventually get there, as you see him rotating up now.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally that TP just saved that turret for a short while, but now it is going to be EXCEL refocusing on that, while Sendo is also still winning this top matchup.
Yeah, quite heavily as well. We did expect it, but it's still not nice to look at if you're on the Scion. The Scion, it's just like him getting constantly beat down with little boomerangs. It's awful to look at, but Igloo, unfortunately, knowing the Gnar was being picked up, knowing he picked Scion, you can't really have many complaints.
Yeah. It's like, you know, in DC, it's the worst villain, Captain Boomerang. No one wants to see that.
Yeah. No one wants you here. What are you doing here? But as I say that now, Taxer goes in. We're going to see the Chains of Corruption coming in, as well as the Explosive Cast. That is a complete whiff. Now the Jin tries to pop off his ultimate. They're trying to just put damage onto the support.
Okay.
Flash into the Devour, but Shogun goes golden. As they're trying to just put down damage. Venzer, however, has got the bouncing grenade. Gnar on the top side did use his ultimate onto Igloo. Vrau trying to just trade it back, but Quickset will just regen so much given that grey health. And they will pick up this mid lane turret, and all of a sudden that gold V is now 2,500, starting to kind of, you know, slowly but surely escalate back towards EXCEL.
Now, that looked like a massive whiff, but we'll see it in the replay, and I want to talk about it then, because it was actually just a really good Unbreakable that denied a lot of what EXCEL wanted to do. Speaking of denying EXCEL.
Yeah, he did flash, has got the hop and the boomerang, so he shall be just fine. But yes, I do want to see the replay, just mainly because of how the engage kind of works, but also doesn't kind of work.
Okay, so let's have a look at this. Just follow Shogun here. Look at the way the Unbreakable is lined up, because it looks like he's a full catch. It now blocks the Explosive Cask, which sends it on the wrong trajectory, giving Vrau the out. And from there, it's actually really nice. Quickset has always been good in this engage. Even when on disengage, he will engage. And does a good job there of saving what was a well-countered engage.
Unfortunate for Vrau as well. Had he kept on to the sleepy trouble bubble, bubble trouble? Is it trouble bubble? I was right the first time.
Getting there.
I was right the first time, but had he kept hold of it for like a half second, saw Quickset flashing in, he would have been able to keep him on the turret, probably trade it back for a 1-for-1. Might have been able to happen, but League of Legends is a game of ifs and buts, as we see a 4-man stack again coming out from EXCEL. They want to just take these turrets. There's a Chain of Corruption as well as the Unleashed Power, and actually going to be able to take a kill off. Look at the amount of balls on the floor there for Syndra, able to just shove them into everybody on the side of MNM.
You know what you said.
I don't care.
You know what you said. Oh god, that is...
Scoundrel enjoyed that one, but ends up being a turret and a kill in favor of EXCEL. They are, though, forced to back away. Maybe a return kill. We'll have to wait and see. TP is available for Sendu and not for Igloo.
Yeah, they still... One of the things that MNM's draft does do is it pokes extremely well with the Varus Zoe, which is also why I questioned it when it was picked up straight into Tahm Kench. And we have seen that kind of make this struggle somewhat. So, from now, it is still EXCEL very much in the driver's seat. We were talking about how they have multiple win conditions. One of MNM's big ones was to win towards the early game and then bring that into the mid game. Getting the Gnar into Scion has kind of countered that pretty heavily, considering they have been able to sit the jungler bot side and make sure no plays go down there, on top of getting first blood for themselves.
Big kind of thing that I want to talk about as well is how this is... Oh, dear. Flashing away. Good sleepy trouble bubble. And then backing off of that. But flash bird now from Hades, and we talked about how important that flash is for just getting on top of those squishy targets to get his collateral damage. However, it does equal the first turret for MNM on this map. And they'll be glad to have a little bit of gold going back into their pocket.
Yeah, and that's something, you know, they've been able to hold off for a while, but it's EXCEL again, making sure they get the positive trade out of it, are now hard pressuring this inner, will likely get it.
They haven't got the best turret taking.
They have 5 roaming up. If this gets contested, it should be their fight.
That's true. Sendu does hop backwards, does keep the Scion, the pesky Scion, from doing any kind of work. And right now, even if Sendu doesn't really engage on anything, doesn't get any kills, if he stops the engage, as I say that though, we're going to see Igloo jumping in on the unstoppable onslaught. He hasn't really got much else to go with, but now Rippy, without mana, gets caught out by the Chain of Corruption, gets taken down by Hades, and that is a good little pickup. And we talked about EXCEL through the mid and late game. They just mess up with their shot calling. That's a bit of a mistake.
And that was also coming back onto our point about Rippy being a potential weak link. He shouldn't really have been there. He thought he was saving people by throwing out the Scatter the Weak, but realistically, they'd already been saved by their own good positioning, and you just put yourself forward, offered yourself up as more than a good consolation prize, honestly. Taking away the mid laner, that's a lot of wave clear taken away.
Yeah, now they may be able to turn onto this mid lane turret. I've got a lot of poke damage, and ooh, that Q. That Q with absolute focus on Varus just does so much, because it's just such a huge spike when you get that Youmuu's Ghostblade.
Yeah, and also what's nice about Youmuu's is it gives you that bit of out of combat move speed, so before your Q lands, you're able to use that to move around a little bit more, even through the slow.
Yeah. What do you call it? Youmuu's or Youmuu's?
Youmuu's.
You call it Youmuu's?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's Y-O-U. It's already a word in the English language.
Yeah, but like, you know how the English language is. It's not exactly consistent. Like I before E except after C, which is literally the most incorrect statement ever.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of exceptions in English, I'll give you that.
I know it's your name. I know it's your name, Excoundrel, Kieran, which is an Irish name.
Well,
funny enough.
He kind of went halfway on it, because he spelled it an English way.
Well, you're thinking of Kieran?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But well, he's not Kieran, he's Kieran.
Yeah, but even still.
Yeah, you can say it like a proper Cork man, like, you know, oh, Kieran.
Lord. No one wants to deal with that accent.
No, not even people from Cork.
People barely want to deal with this accent. I don't want to have to deal with the Cork accent.
To our UK brethren who are wondering where the hell's Cork and who they sound like, it's the equivalent of Midlands.
No,
like
Cork. Well, I mean, what they sound like, sure. But I was going to say they're very much in the south.
No. Equivalent of like hard Midlands UK. Like.
Yeah, it's a bit of a geography lesson.
And actually, we're going to have come back to that geography lesson very, very shortly, as MNM now pushing into that mid lane again. Syndra, actually, they're going with a 1-3-1 split push, and this is not something I expected to see with them. Something more I was expecting kind of like group of 4, keep the kind of core MNM team around, while Sendu does the split pushing.
But what's happening here is they're realizing that they're struggling against all the poke and engage that you have coming out from Zoe and Varus, so they're just constantly trying to switch it up so they can't set up good poke, and hopefully find an engage as they come across, knowing that they've had better map control previously.
Yeah, there is the Jhin ultimate down and out though, so won't have that, you know, kind of finishing move as such for Jhin for the next, you know, minute and a half or so. Something to be wary of, but this kind of side pressure, only having kind of, you know, 3 people roaming up and 2 people top, or whatever EXCEL are trying to do, does mean that they lose priority in that mid lane. That mid lane tower is going to go down. Explosive cast just to try and delay the minions, but Unbreakable stops it again, and that's a really good rotational play from MNM.
Okay, you see the Youmuu's, they're just disengaging this one, seeing if they can.
I was going to say, if they can disengage it, they are going to have Shogun, possibly the Sacrificial Land. Glacial Fissure comes out, does have a lot of damage still down to him, but he's able to survive. Just about barely could have fit a bus blue, as Scion gets himself right into the middle of that one there. It's people in trouble, but a great gnarl from Sendu right onto the back line. Hades and Jokerism both taking down. It's a triple, maybe a quadra coming in here for Rippy. We questioned him. Venzer sticks it away from him, but we question him and his, you know, ability to carry. He has quashed those critics as Vro tries to come in. Vro?
Wait a minute.
That's an ace. And that honestly could be an inhibitor, in maybe even transition into a Baron. Death timers are still very short.
All right. That was an interesting ending to that one, but it might have slowed it down enough that they can't commit to the inhibitor. Maybe that was the flat.
Mayhaps.
That was the only real reason you'd go for a play like that, and it did delay them. They saved the inhib at the very least, so credit there.
I wonder. I think it might have been just a call of like, we need to just like damage control right now. It's like, if we give away 300 gold, that's fine. We just can't lose our inhibitor because we're just losing so hard on the side lanes that we're just going to lose the game. So maybe it was a better call, maybe not, but good rotational play from EXCEL. Good way of setting up the fight, and Sendu with a great Gnar ultimate right on the back line.
Where you going?
Rippy again gets caught out, nowhere to go, no prayer. Shut down Jokerism with the buff transfer.
I mean, it was almost a great return onto the Graves, but yeah, you're caught out there pretty heavily. It's a bit of a wide angle to take. And now potentially giving up a lot of Baron pressure, and that's going to be MNM's call.
That is going to be MNM's call. They have got Gnar on the bot side. Sorry, I lie. Only the Gnar of Sendu's Gnar has the TP, but Baron has been started. No vision available right now. They are going to Tam Kencho. You see in the top left of your screen. Taxer is there, but now nobody is with Jin. They have to try and defend him. He does not get Sleepy Trouble Bubbles and backs away. They do stop the Baron for now. 10 seconds till Rippy's back up. You'd imagine MNM probably going to rotate for this Dragon and just take what they can.
It was a bit of a desperation play. It was like, if they don't check us, we could get this.
Yeah.
But they should know we're going for it. They do. They counter with a quick Tam Kencho. I think it's fine. MNM are very much backs against the wall. They kind of have to go for those kind of plays. Hope that EXCEL won't think they'll do that, but EXCEL, credit to them, aren't that silly.
Now we're going to see a replay of the big fight in mid lane and talk us through this one.
Yeah, so you can see they just managed to get all 5 people in this quick pincer, and it leaves Shogun completely isolated. But I want to watch the Scion TP in here, because it looks like it could be a great play, and then everyone just separates slowly. There was a stunned target for him to hit, and he missed on that one. And then Rippy, followed by the Gnar. Great chain CC. And credit to EXCEL, they played really well as a team in that fight.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic move there, and Rippy setting up Sendu, and I love the crisp
watch
call.
the end of this. This is where Brow just like, I just need to take the wave, slow this down just a little bit.
I don't think he realizes there's a trap there, and I think that just ends him. Oh, the PM Penguin! the Penguin. The Penguin. I'm glad it wasn't the dad penguin, because that one's just BM as much. It's so much more.
I think emotes were kind of introduced to BM in a way that Riot found friendly, so I think they're all fine.
Quotation marks.
Yeah.
Friendly.
As friendly as literally being bad-mannered can mean.
As an ADC in Silver 1, it is horrific when your support just leaves you to die and sends you the fizz shrug. Like, it's just kind of like, what? How am I supposed to do anything? But coming up now into 28 minutes into the game, we are seeing a 5,000 gold lead just above that for EXCEL. 3 dragons though for M&Ms. They have got a late game win condition if they do secure that Elder Drake. I say super late game.
Yeah, we're shooting a bit later than I think is reasonable,
super
sure.
late game. And Ocean Drake going to be next as well. So if they can disengage fights and kind of re-engage them, I actually quite like triple Ocean Drake in late game, because it does give you a hell of a lot of regen, gives you a hell of a lot of kind of, you know, poke potential to kind of come in, come out, come in, come out. But that's a lot of ifs and buts.
You're mentioning all the positives of Ocean Drake, ignoring the fact that it's definitely the worst of the 4.
I would say
what?
Cloud is worse.
I would say you are definitely wrong. How? That gives you a massive move speed boost.
I think the stats of a blue buff pretty much constantly on your AD carry who's literally going
only
for
when
pure
you're
poke.
out of combat.
Yes,
like,
I accept that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still not great, and it's not even comparable to blue buff. It's very low, even when tripled, which is very sad. Yeah, honestly, I really should get something.
A bit sad, but let's drag it all the way back in. We're talking about the positives for MNM, but let's have a look at the positives of EXCEL, because right now they've played the game how they need to play it. What's their next step?
There's a lot of them. So let's focus this down a bit. Right now, all they need to be looking at is, if we secure Baron, that could well be the game.
Yeah.
Because all we need to do from there is set up the same siege we had. We can even go back to that 1-3-1 if we want, as long as Rippy doesn't take a weird route to it, and we should be fine. And from there, you have MNM, who are kind of being dragged around the map. Even when it's been MNM trying to make calls, it's always seemed like EXCEL have been in control.
Yeah, they have seemed like they're a little bit in control, but quick pause, not quite sure what it was, but glad to see that we are back in game. And give us a nice little breather, you know? A lot of crazy fights happening right now. Nice to just kind of go, whew, relax. Nothing to be worried about as we see the Jhin opening with the ultimate, trying to catch out Jokerism and Shogun. Benzer will not find his target.
That almost hurt him.
Yeah. I think he got frustrated because he got like half health and he was just like, no! I need to return poke!
I can kind of see what they're going for. They saw that Graves was separated, but now speaking of separated.
Separated, the Tam Kench is going to take a lot of damage down to low thirds, and that's going to be a lot more coming in! Igloo able to cut off any way of escape, and that could spell Baron. We talked about MNM picking it up, but now Sendu has to join this team. They may lose Baron off this. This could be MNM coming back into this.
See if they can. This is still a potential fight. This isn't over. EXCEL are going to contest this. They're angling around. They're looking for the poke in.
Not the quickest
Could be the
Baron take
steal.
either. Not the quickest Baron take. There's still a lot of poke that they need to respect from the side of EXCEL. They may need to turn on this straight away. Hades taking a lot of damage, as is Shogun. Sendu comes in, will get Sleepy Bubble Trouble as he tries to get in, almost gets taken down. There's the explosive cast that knocks everybody out of the pit.
They're low.
They are low. There's the deadly flourish, but not quite able to get
done.
anything else. They do pack it up and back it up. TP from Quickset back into the mid lane. That's going to be a mid lane push coming in from EXCEL just to get priority over the Baron. And MNM have to back away. They lose nobody, but they don't gain anything off that pick.
EXCEL now can get complete control over this Baron. They'll just maintain vision control. If they were feeling particularly risky, they could start it up. And they are going to do exactly that, because what they've done instead is send Taxer up to scout deep. That means you know if anyone was going to respond to it. Okay, yeah, they saw as soon as he did scout deep, oh, they have responded. Let's get out of here.
I was going to say,
no.
now actually...
Now it's going to be them doing the exact same play.
I was going to say, they're actually going to start this Baron up straight away, and the rest of EXCEL have gone back. Taxer is still hanging around, but the rest of them, your two big tanks, are not there. Now we're going to see the Jin ultimate coming down onto Jokerism. He's trying to get something down on top of him. Sleepy Bubble Trouble comes in, but Igloo, again, could have fit a bus through it. Now he's in the middle of 4 players, potentially 5, as the rest of EXCEL try to turn back on top of this. Baron has been stopped. They haven't got full vision control. They're turning onto Igloo. Igloo, between a rock and a hard place, needs to get back with his team.
This is so split.
It's so split, but no one's going to throw. Almost taken down with the Unleashed Power, and the rest of MNM now need to back away. Good chain of corruption down onto Taxer, stops him from engaging any further, stops EXCEL from ingressing further on. Everyone backs away. Baron is the key, and Baron is what both these teams want.
They're fighting so heavily for this, and I love it. And now they're going to keep fighting. It's
the fast. Not quite the fast yet. He needs one more item, and then he's the fast. Venzer, he will be so speedy. He will be a speedy boy. I want, like, Initial D soundtrack over this when he comes online.
I mean, the real fast was able to outrun a Scion ult, so maybe that's what you need this game, because that has been a lot of MNM's shining things here. Igloo has gotten some good flanks off, in fairness to him.
Oh, Venzer forced to be devoured there. Actually, they're going to stop Taxer's back. They're not done, because Bro has come back with a full HP bar and mana bar. Top lane is in favor of EXCEL. That needs to be kind of dealt with fairly soon from the side of MNM. They are just trying to get more priority, and this feels like it's just kind of delay and kind of, you know, desperation from MNM. They're just like, okay, we have a little bit of an edge. We need to keep this edge, but they're not able to get anything to stick.
I mean, what I will say to them is they've now pushed, we were talking about how EXCEL were constantly in control. They've completely flipped that, as MNM, who are forcing EXCEL to continue to move, they aren't able to win these fights necessarily, but it has at least slowed down what was EXCEL's game. Yeah, we're actually going to see a TP coming in now as well. This could be the fight, but it's stolen by Taxer, and that is going to be Shogun taken down. Good explosive cast, puts Igloo away from the rest of his team, but nobody has took throw or the Jokerism on the back end. No. Now they're trying to jump on top of him. Hades is trying to just back away from this. Sendu goes in, gets the Blade of the Ruin King and proc off on top of him. Now Sendu with his GA has no fear, has nothing to stop him except for the Scion to just run away. Now the side of MNM are on the wrong side of the map. They need to try and get back to their team. He tries to jump on Vro, misses the Q, which would have been able to kill off Venzer, maybe stopping some kind of a play. There's the heal coming in as they try to catch on the Jokerism. He's going to try and trade it, not quite able to. And that's going to be Venzer blowing him up. It ends up being a 3-for-none fight. The Dragon goes over to EXCEL, and here comes Vro. Nothing he can do, nowhere he can go. 4-for-nothing. Igloo, why are you still mid, my son? You need to back away. He is eventually going to get eaten up, spat back out, sent to the gray screen. Unless Shogun. Someday. Oh, Shogun. Oh my god. I thought it was there. He has got the unbreakable, but it's only going to delay for the inevitable. And that is eventually a 5-for-none and a Dragon and potentially a Baron for EXCEL. I want to slow this down. Observers, you do not need to give us a replay of that. That was so long. It was so back and forth. But at the end of the day, it was just EXCEL speeding up constantly, binding MNM on that Dragon, and that was the key play. It was MNM had lined themselves up for something that they were not in a position to take, and now it's back. EXCEL are in control. Can MNM steal? And that's what they really need here.
You steal Dragon. Can he steal Baron, though? That's the question. He's actually going to jump on the quick step, and actually Rippy forced a flash over as well. Actually think Quickstep almost sort of saved him a little bit there, as Endu almost goes down. There it is. There's explosive cast to keep everybody away. 7-7-7. Smite comes down. Taxer picks up that one, and that is EXCEL finally getting the Baron after such a long, prolonged fight. That was almost part of the first fight.
So that was messy. So let's bring her right back to the Dragon. This is when things actually kicked off. It was MNM dragging people around the map with weird plays, and so weird that it doesn't work out. They overcommit to the dragon, they get caught up here, and there's a lot of good damage coming down from MNM, but onto all the wrong targets. Quickset attacks are able to just tank it up for everyone, and Rippy and Venzer in the meantime are just pumping out damage. Rippy in particular here. And Sendo is then able to take people on because they've focused so heavily on the backline that they've ignored this is a full split push build Gnar, so it is all damage.
Ooh, good dodge there from Bro, but I feel like if he hits that Q, Venzer dies, and I feel like that's enough to stop the Baron, but unfortunately...
I think he was actually going for both. He was actually going for Rippy and Venzer.
Yeah.
He wanted to hit the one on Venzer and then go on to Rippy afterwards because he'd left him asleep. But commits for both, gets neither, and then gets picked up by Sendo, who just starts shredding through people at this point.
Yeah, and also...
This should be their game now.
Should be is the key sentence, as we've always said in these games. But Inhibitor in the mid lane falls. That is a 9,000 gold lead for EXCEL. They have complete control. They have complete teamfight dominance. And right now, they just need to complete this game to take themselves into the lead.
All you have to do now from EXCEL's side, you send Sendo to one lane, you send everyone else to the other. You then have the inhib in the middle. It's going to push in with super minions. That's your control. MNM side, you have to desperation engage onto the 4-man. That's about your only win condition. The other option is to try desperation engage onto Sendo. At that point, you still probably lose out because you have a 4-man team with the Baron. Here is the start of that engage.
Here we go. Igloo going to use Unstoppable Onslaught right in front of Taxter. Actually knock up there onto Rippy, slows him down a little bit. Explosive cast on the backside, but Venzer actually taking a huge amount of poke. They need to be very, very careful. Here's the 4-man engage, 4v5. Hades forced to go golden. There's the cleanse used by Quickset. Now Venzer can open up on this backside, trying to get on the Jokerism. He needs to stay behind the Braum. Will eventually get it, but now look at those blinking health bars. EXCEL are the ones, and while all this is happening, he's got the Sendu in that top side, able to just keep split pushing. He's got so much damage with that split push build. Like you talked about, he's able to take another inhibitor. Now we're actually going to see two people put into the backside of MNM, and there's just nowhere for them to hide. They haven't got the damage, they haven't got the team, they haven't got the coordination, and it's just all falling apart. You talked about the 4-man engage on bot lane. It's just not working out. Eventually, they will all nearly fall, but they've just lost out on everything.
Yeah, now it's going to be another inhib going down. First top side, then likely going to be the bot side. You could see MNM trying to refocus, trying to go, okay, it's still the 4-man we need to fight. We left them low, we've healed up. Can we find a fight? They're going for it.
They are going to go for a quick set. Does get taken down eventually. Good exchange of corruption, but the rest of his team are backing away. MNM, they get one, but they lose almost everything else. They have one inhibitor left standing, 3 turrets. And not really a hope left for them unless Igloo can really start making these engages happen. And honestly, right now, it looks like he's playing like, you know, rugby. He's getting so many between the posts.
I will say that the biggest reason after that Baron, you kind of go, okay, this is EXCEL's game, because they have all the pushing power. They can disengage as well off a lot of those engages. We talked about that a lot in the pre-desk, and we're seeing that now. You see, only Quickset goes down there, and they had to layer literally everything on top of him for that to happen. So difficult for them to consistently punish, and while they're doing that, they still lose inhibitors because you have that split pusher with the Baron able to just take apart your base.
And I love this itemization from Quickset as well. He's actually picked himself up a Warmogs just so he can take the poke. If he gets out alive, he comes back in, he's fine. Like literally after like 10-15 seconds, he's totally fine. We can go for a re-engage. And like you said, amount of disengage versus, you know, kind of the amount of engage on MNM, EXCEL have just got the number. They've got enough answers to throw back at what, you know, MNM's throwing back at them.
Yeah, and Graves is right now the only one who's close to being able to 1v1 Sendo. They actually have to send him top for a good portion of that, but now that Elder Drake's coming up, you had to send him back, but it's actually going to be the Elder Drake being contested here, which you won't get to see because we're going to have a quick look at the replay, and it's going to be quick fight here. You can see that it's just constantly EXCEL in control. As Eminem attempting to find engages. Rippy gets one piece of damage off though, and it's Jokerism below half health. It was just so much desperation from an Eminem, and Rippy just pumping out damage onto their back. Then it's Venzer. It just got so ridiculous so quickly for them, and they had to rush backwards while EXCEL continued to engage.
Yeah, and EXCEL just able to do so much. Like you said, being able to go 4v5 and still get them that low. Syndra has so much potential to put out huge amounts of damage. And we're actually going to see the Elder Drake was taken by EXCEL. And we were in that replay there. And this should spell the end for the side of MNM. even now, even before this, Igloo had no chance against Sendu. Now he's got even less of a chance.
Yeah, I mean, look, Sendo's got all the control there. Now it's just EXCEL. The exact same play that you did with the Baron. This time your waves go down quicker, but so does the enemy team with the Elder Dragon.
Yep.
So nice and easy for you.
Big thing to notice as well is that there is a couple of flashes, you know, not available for the side of EXCEL and MNM. Honestly, even then, I don't even think they come back out of this very, very strong, because Igloo can't do anything against Sendu right now. They can put one crit shot onto that turret and it will pretty much go down after one wave, and that's all they have to do. Finally onto that last inhibitor turret, or inhibitor. This Rippy does get a little bit of poke down on top of him, but he's not going to care much about that. They've got the minion waves, they've got the structures they wanted. It's do or die for MNM.
Yep, one last fight, guys. See what you can do. See if you can
a
find
fiesta.
anyone.
They have got the mid lane turret respawning for them, so they have got that going for them a little bit.
Rippy's low.
Rippy is low. They have to respect the engage from the side of MNM as EXCEL do back away. A lot of damage now onto this Varus as Jokerism has finished up his triple armor pen items. And fair play to EXCEL. They're being respectful. They want to take the highest percentage win possible, and they're not going to push the issue.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying fair play. I'm saying you're playing this awfully slow, lads.
Yeah. Fair play.
It's safe. I respect that it's a best of 3 and you want to make sure every game is won safely. It's late game, so if something goes wrong, you lose a lot. But this is a bit much.
It's Baron or die.
They're going to wait for the Baron.
Yeah,
but you've just turned this fight into another fight over Baron when you should have been looking at Elder Drake as your chance to push in and end. It's safe. It's not necessarily the wrong play, but it's definitely the slower one. And I feel like it's a bit of worry since their last series didn't go so well. They want to make sure that they close this one out cleanly.
Yeah, we'll see what they get. There's the Sleepy Trouble Bubble down onto the Cam Kench, but they're on the wrong side of the fight now. They have to completely backpedal because EXCEL don't care about the Baron right now. EXCEL are just kind of saying, okay, we've reset, we've picked up a couple of stopwatches to protect us. We can just push into this mid lane, get what we want whenever we want it, and Rippy needs to be careful, taking a lot of poke damage down to about 2/3, a little less. 3/5 maybe?
Yeah, potentially. If your fractions are just about on point. I'd say they are. That's fair. But they're struggling with
I was going to say,
right
you're
now.
the engineer. I'm not I wouldn't really have that much math. I'm the journalist.
Yeah, it's approximately 55–60%. So you're pretty close.
Pretty close. I'll take that. I'll take a pretty close as the inhibitor, and topside has respawned now, and actually this could be a little bit of a late one as Venzer actually forced to get devoured immediately. Chain of Corruption on the Taxer means that he has to go golden straight away, but Zoe is blown to pieces. Now we got Sendu on the backside. Double kill for Taxer, maybe a triple kill for him, but it doesn't really matter overall. They are going to try and gift it over to him. Venzer again says no to the streak, and that is all she wrote for MNM as Hades and Jokerism finally getting pushed back into the base. Tamkench to finish it all off. A clean ace for EXCEL, and game 1 in the bag in this quarterfinals of Forge of Champions 4.
Yeah, and let's clarify, clean ace in the sense that they survived. Not necessarily the cleanest play in the world, but they managed to get it. And the key one there was as soon as Zoe went down, they'd won the fight. Before that, it was still extremely close, but Taxer managed to finish it off with that explosive cask. Got a little dicey there for them towards the end, but they ended it.
I feel like this is a resonant EXCEL from yesterday. Like they definitely don't want to put a foot wrong. They don't want to make these late game decision makings. They sometimes overstepped versus Enclave. But it kind of played out exactly as he thought. Like Sion versus Nah, bad matchup for Sion. They picked that into it. They picked that into it. I know a lot of the good matchups from now are banned away or not available, but Sion, I mean, come on, really?
Could have at least banned away the Gnar.
Like I think you can do okay as a Sion, right? If you obviously Maxi, Comet, you can harass Gnar down, you can engage on him level 6. With a bit of help from the jungler, there is potential to get let that lane go okay. The shield prevents the hyper damage, percentage health based damage chunking too much. Speaking of damage, we have the damage charts here. Jokerism popping off right there, but unfortunately not enough.
I think the big thing to look at is look at Gnar, who actually out-damaged the Syndra, who was destroying those team fights.
Yeah.
That's what that split push build does.
I think what you got to look at Jokerism, although he's obviously a significant portion of damage in the lead, his Qs chunk really hard, and so he was constantly resetting fights. And I think it's actually an attributor as to why this game went so long. Couple of fights EXCEL were looking to take, Stray Jokerism arrows, you've half health, the Jin on the backline, can't take the fight now, got to back off.
I think the key one for me is every time a fight started, we just like quickly pan back, Rippy's on half health.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's every time they wanted to start a fight, you saw it was the Syndra, who was their primary engage in a lot of these cases, who was trying to play that little bit too far up, was getting punished for it, and then it slowed the game down even more.
The problems that we said before draft were there for MNM though. No engage, absolutely zero engage. And if they did try to engage a Sion, he, like Ashin so elegantly said, you could fit a bus through it. Like, they parted ways like the Red Sea. And
it was like he was Moses, and it was just like, let my people live.
Very little way. And a lot of the fights that MNM won were capitalizing on EXCEL having committed to something too hard, or Baron fights and things like that. Couple of picks which worked out in their favor, but it was a pick-orientated composition in EXCEL with the Tarn Kench weren't letting lots of that happen. So I think the game played out as we expected. The split push win condition was there, provided a heller amount of threat in the top lane or whatever lane Sendo was in at the point. Team fighting was just ultimately better from EXCEL, and MNM really couldn't push their issue in the mid game. Yeah,
I think once that Baron was taken, I think it did play a little slower than we expected, but that's about the only thing you can really fault EXCEL on after all those picks. It's kind of like, you'd taken the inhibs, you'd taken the base, and then it was like another 5-10 minutes until they actually closed out the game because they were playing so wary or picking up stray Varus arrows, as we were saying. So maybe don't get poked out. Use your Tam Kench earlier if you have to. I mean, it's easy to say, but I guess when it comes down to a team that has just been shaken from a previous series, maybe that's what we were seeing.
I did love how, like, right up until the Baron, it was like this Benny Hill of like, whoa, whoa, like everyone was just running around the map. And you could see a little bit of desperation from MNM where they realized that if this game goes much longer, every single person barrier glue will just get one shot by the Syndra, and that's just the end of the question. So we need to find an advantage, and they just didn't.
That was the question, the point we brought up in the pre-game as well, is that in these fights they rely on Sion to be that front line, but then who deals with Sendu in the split push Sion, because he was just pushing him in the side lane over and over again. So someone had to deal with Sendu. No one could deal with Sendu. Sion, if he wasn't in the fight, meant that MNM had no team fight capabilities, and like you said, Syndra could pick her target. It was like a shooting range, fish in a barrel. And EXCEL take the first game in this semi-finals. So when we come back after the break, we'll jump into our second of this series. Can EXCEL make it a clean 2-0, or have MNM got fight in them yet? We'll see.